All right, good morning, everybody. I'm going to keep saying that loudly because I know where you all were last night. I know we need a little bit more pep and zing. Exciting day coming. It was a pretty great party last night. Yeah, right? Hopefully everyone had a chance to chat, to dance, to buzz around with little bees knees things. Those were delicious. Thank you for joining us and making this work so much fun. And welcome for the folks that are joining us from the great beyond online. We're really happy to have you here as well. I'm Liz Crane. I'm the Deputy Director of ArtPlace, and I've been with this organization since 2012. And thus, I have had an opportunity to work with many of our wonderful funders and foundation colleagues over the years. And so I'm going to come up and chat a little bit about some of our new work coming up. But first, we wanted to get your brains going a little bit with a special treat. And as you've heard over the last couple of days, our colleague Dennis Scholl is transitioning out of the Knight Foundation, where he's helped distribute more than $130 million in arts-focused funding. Yeah. And an important part of any transition is to undergo an exit interview. So we have asked one of his grantees and arts leader extraordinaire, Laura Zabel, to come up and ask him a few questions and explore how the Knight Foundation's work has evolved over the years. What are some of the most important lessons that he's learned? Where does he see this work going forward? And it's particularly timely because the Knight Foundation just released a transmedia report, Building Community Through Innovation in the Arts. It chronicles many of the investments and frameworks that the Knight Foundation has made over the last few years. And I was struck by one of the framing devices in the report, which talks about how the Knight Foundation proceeded with earnestness and experimentation. And I think those two qualities, that passion and that risk-taking, are also what many of you in the room are actually doing in your projects. And I think holding that notion of earnestness and experimentation is a really powerful phrase. You know, I think the other thing that I thought, just this a little quote from the beginning, Dennis and the Knight Foundation have supported a lot of projects that live the ideal of making art an integral part of people's lives. So that to me, that ideal, I think, again, is something that we're all striving for. So I'm going to ask Laura and Dennis to come up. Laura's going to ask Dennis a few questions, and then we will continue on with our day.
I hope she's watching.
Good morning.
Test.
Hi, Dennis.
I'm really nervous. Laura really knows how to stick it to me when she wants to. So if this doesn't go well, it doesn't matter because I'm out of here. So.
So I'm just really, I feel like it's just such a privilege to get to do this with you, to get to ask you some questions and share some of your work and what you've learned over the last few years at Knight and in your involvement in ArtPlace. So I have a few questions about the report and about your years, and then we'll save a little time for some predictions as well into the future. So Liz mentioned this really great new report. It's a transmedia, right? That's what we call that, meaning multimedia, about the work that Knight has supported under your tenure and over the last few years at the intersection of arts and innovation and art and public life. Can you talk a little bit, not so much about the work right away, but about the report and sort of how that came to be?
One of the things that has been a real hallmark of what we've tried to push people to do is a very simple idea. Find a good story, and none of you would be sitting here if you didn't have a good story. You've battled through thousands of applicants, many finalists, site visits from some of these really tough reviewers that are sitting in the audience. And then you became an ArtPlace winner. Now, the art world doesn't like to talk about winners, but you guys are winners. And the thing that I have always been trying to promote to people is please make sure that once you have this great story, that you tell it well and that you tell it over and over and over again. And that's a place where, unfortunately, we're not doing quite the same level of work as the actual commitment to the practice itself. So in an effort to practice what I preached, my going away present to myself was this report. I don't know if anybody has seen Snowfall. It is the New York Times transmedia project about an avalanche story. And it won the Pulitzer Prize. And we saw that, and I simply said, like I always do at night, I said, we're so doing that. And so we basically cribbed from the structure of it shamelessly. And in it, it has text. It also has, if somebody can scroll a little bit, that would be awesome. It has text. It has a series of slides. It has a series of videos. It has motion graphics. It's got all sorts of stuff. It's a cornucopia of just stuff. Don't press any of those videos because it'll take my, there you go. Well, that one's not bad. And so it is not a 3-minute look. It is like a book. It has 5 or 6 chapters. You can learn as much as it accomplishes. I hope some of you will take the time to look at it. It's an endeavor where we have circled back to a lot of our great grantees and simply given them the stage. We didn't write it. We had an outside reporter come in and write it for us. We have been capturing video through the 6.5 years that I was at night, and we wanted to make sure that we had a chance to use a lot of that video. You know, we've become very, very uninterested in production quality and more about being in the moment. So there's no excuse for not capturing video of almost every interesting thing your organization does. So that's what this is about, and I hope, like I said, I hope people take a look at it when they get a chance.
I feel like one of the most important things of many that I have learned from you is that the way you tell the story, that the telling of the story is part of the work. And actually, when we received our ArtPlace commitment for our Irrigate project, I remember talking to you on the phone when we first got that news, and the first thing you said to me is, document the work, make a video of the work, and we ended up having a really great 30-minute documentary at the end of it that we never would have had if we hadn't thought about that at the beginning.
Including the mayor tagging walls with a spray paint can and stuff like that. That's the other thing, and this isn't meant to be a screed today, but hell, I'm leaving, so if you don't like what I say, don't pay any attention.
Dennis has some things to tell you.
But the other thing is that one of the things I find, particularly with the best grantees that I have, with the best of this field, and you're all sitting here today, is you love to do the work. You love to practice the program. And if you are given the opportunity, you will take 99% of the time that you spend on programmatic activities. But you would be better served, and your organization would grow much quicker if you spent 70 or 75% of your time on the program, spent on branding and messaging and proselytizing and capturing and doing all these other things. When we started the Night Arts program 5 years and change ago, we got $5 million from the board. The next year they doubled it. The next year they doubled that again, and the next year they gave us another big slug. They didn't do that because we were doing good work. They did it because we were doing good work, and I was able to show them over and over again that good work. I showed it to them by showing them video, by showing them third-party validation, you know. So I implore you that if you want your organization to grow, the quickest way to get it to grow is to, this sounds so antithetical, give up a little mission and focus on the best things that you're doing in a way that people can understand and pay attention. Find a great story. Tell it well. Tell it over and over again. We told the story of Random Acts of Culture 1,300 times.
Well, and I guess I would say that I think that's not actually, you know, everybody, we all have something we're trying to change or something we're trying to say, so telling the story is part of that work.
I don't actually hear that from people most of the time. I actually hear, I really need a 5th performance, or I really need 8 shows as opposed to 6 shows in my visual art space. I don't really want to spend the time promoting the 6 shows as opposed to having 8 shows, because that's the fun part. That's the dessert. You know that. We all love that. We all love making. We all love creating. We all love being involved. So.
The report, one of the quotes from you that really resonated for me, because you know, the work we do is all about individual artists, was this. You said, "How a community treats its artists tells us how a community feels about itself." And I just wanted to hear you talk a little bit about what that means to you, and maybe what your experience has been traveling to these 8 communities and learning about them in a really deep way, and sort of what you've learned about what makes communities unique and different, and how culture affects the sense of place.
What do you remember about early Greece? Do you remember the sports? No, you only remember the culture. What do you remember? You know, I mean, that's what's important in our society from a long run. Unfortunately, we're in the short run all the time. We're always looking a day or 2 ahead. I like to think what we've tried to do is we've tried to create an arts ecosystem in each of the 8 night resident communities, and many of you are here today. We've tried to create an ecosystem in which people felt empowered because they knew they weren't a lonely business, as you all know. There are times when you think it's just you against the world. I think we heard a little bit of that yesterday from our colleague in Lawrence, Kansas. Sometimes it just feels like it's just you, but it's not. And so we tried to create an arts ecosystem. We tried to put people together and give them the imprimatur of Knight Foundation. It's not my imprimatur, but the Knight imprimatur is just like the ArtPlace imprimatur. You won. You were chosen from thousands of applications. So that was the first thing, is to try to create an ecosystem. But then, what do you do next? How do you push that out to the community? And the way to do it is by audience engagement, you know, by finding a way to touch people that's a little bit different. We don't want you to change the mission. We want you to change the way you're reaching people. You've got to, we don't want to impact the art, but we do want you to think about new alternatives, new ways to reach an audience. And that's, I mean, that's what ArtPlace is, really. I mean, it's a movement.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about art. When you were involved at the very beginning in the coming together of the idea of ArtPlace and launching it, and I'm curious now, these years in, as you look back, what's been most surprising to you about how that turned out, or what have been the surprises, or what's different from how it looks now than how you thought it would have been when you started?
I think that this was an idea kind of waiting to happen. My colleagues who are on the operating committee are here, so many of the foundation representatives, and when we all got in a room, because the presidents got in a room and said, we're doing this, and that's great, and then they went back to their fancy lunches and stuff, and the program officers were left to do it. And so we all sat in a room together, and we said, well, how are we going to do this? And we were fortunate to have Carol Coletta, who is a true social entrepreneur, and we were, as we have said often during this time process of building it out, we were building the plane while we were flying it. And that was pretty scary. But the idea that art and artists could matter in a community in a way that rose above the kind of internal circular cycle that we all live in was actually pretty novel. You know, artists are always thought of, you taught me this, artists are always thought of as the other. And Laura always says they're not the other. You've got to integrate them into your community. You've got to find a way to be part of your community. Now, artists, as a general rule, shy away from that kind of involvement. You know, most artists become artists because they're a little different than everybody else. I like that about being around artists. But you've got to find a way to engage your community. And ArtPlace is a way for people to say, oh, that neighborhood is going on because of art and artists. I think everybody here from every community, if I asked them to, I could pick somebody at random, and I could ask, what is the intersection in your community bubble up and become more interesting? What is that intersection? And you would be able to tell me. It would be Main and 4th or Chestnut and 3rd or whatever. And the reason that would be happening, the reason it's happening, is almost always initially because of artists. because they're the pioneers. They're the ones to go out there and try to take a chance and take some risk. And why do they do that? They don't do it because they're nice guys. They do it because they need cheap space, and cheap space is generally in a neighborhood that you know, is more accessible economically. So I think that the idea of art and artists leading the way, you know, and then we hear a lot about issues of gentrification, things like that, and I get that. But artists are almost always the early warning system for when things are going to start bubbling. So just embrace that. Let's just take it and run with it. That's what you guys are doing. I met so many people the last couple of days who are working on very, very interesting projects, and they're all so different. Because there's not a one-size-fits-all solution here. Different communities need different things. Different communities want different things. But culturally, you have the ability to go out and literally change your community. And that's what ArtPlace has given people the opportunity to do. When I think about what you did on, you know, on the rail line, hundreds of artistic performances on a rail line. When somebody said to me before ArtPlace, art and transportation, I was like, there's no Venn diagram match there. Well, you know, Laura showed me that that was wrong, that there is a Venn diagram match there, and that you can keep a restaurant in business that is stuck on a construction site for 2.5 years by virtue of creating event-driven activity there. So, you know, all power to her for showing us all that.
I feel like for all of us in this room, our work, our specialty is the weirdest Venn diagrams possible between art and artists and other parts of the community. I think that's part of what drives all of our interest in this work. So as you look ahead and as you sort of will watch this unfold from a different vantage point now, what's your hope for the future of this field, this work in creative placemaking for ArtPlace and all the people who are doing this work?
So I would ask you guys to just ask yourself one question. What if it's our turn this time? What if it's our turn in our community? What if it's not about the government giving a huge slug of money to a chemical plant to move from one county to the next county and bring 300 jobs? What if mayors, and I do believe they have, by the way, what if mayors have figured it out this time? What if mayors knew that we're a really good deal? You give us a little bit of money, a little bit of encouragement, and we revitalize neighborhoods, and we do things in neighborhoods to put properties on the tax roll or increase, you know, the taxes, you know, through real estate taxes and things like that. It just might be, I'm not sure, but every year that goes by and every time I see the ArtPlace winners and I get very charged up by it, this might be our decade or two to matter in a different way to our communities, to not be the other, to be contributing to our community in a way that maybe we're a little uncomfortable with, but it is what it is. You know, you got to get in the game. And maybe in a way where people begin to understand the value of cultural work product in our community. Because that's what I think might be happening. You can't tell yet. The way I think it might be happening is mayors are starting to pay attention, and mayors are what matter when it comes to moving the needle for everybody. How many of you have a personal, direct, if he saw you on the street, he'd say hi, relationship with your mayor? Yeah. Now, if I had asked you that 5 years ago when there was no ArtPlace, I guarantee you wouldn't be that many hands, okay? So you've actually been brave enough to take that first step and politically prostitute yourself by actually saying hi to your mayor. So what do you do next? What are you guys going to do next? That's my question. You know, what is going to happen to make you even more engaged, okay? I know it's uncomfortable being in the system, but you know, you're all doing it anyway. You're all doing these amazing projects. The city is getting on board in whatever community that you live in. What are you going to do next? That's really the excitement of what's going on. Everybody knows their mayor. And if you didn't raise your hand, please go home and find a way to meet your mayor, okay? And if you don't like him, figure out a way to back the next guy who's going to be mayor. All right? I know we don't like to be politically involved. I know we are absolutely chickens about that. I know we think we're giving it up for the man or something. That's probably like a 60s statement. I apologize for that. I'm really old now. But but go out and take the time, because what will happen is your currency goes up. You're not giving anything up by having a relationship with your city council or your county manager. Your currency will go up dramatically. You will be a bigger stakeholder in your community. And just like the idea of the communications, your organization will grow. So I am so proud of all you guys, and I do want to give a special shout out to all of my philanthropic colleagues who took so much time with me, not coming from the field and coming in here like a bull in a china closet, which is what I've done for the last 5 years. I just want to say thank you to you guys. You know who you are, and I'm just so proud of you guys. So just keep doing it.
So what's next for you?
I don't know. Anybody got any gigs for me? I'm looking for a gig. No, I really felt like I had taken this program, you know, with my skill set. I knew that I'm kind of a discovery and development guy, and that's it. I don't really have anything else I know how to do. And so it was time for me to yield to, and Victoria, who I hope all of you got to meet, she's here. Wave so that they know. There you go. Victoria is going to be awesome. She's she loves art and artists the way I love art and artists, the way you love art and artists. And so that's about 80% of the job right there, is being totally passionate about the opportunity, about caring about, you know, this practice and what it means to our society. I got the incredible benefit while I was at Knight of learning to make films, and I've never been a maker before. I've always been a facilitator, somebody who provides assistance. And then I got this maker bug, and it's horrible to be an artist. It sucks. I mean, yeah. My wife is so sick of hearing me talk about this, so thank you all for listening. But you know, I'm just whining all the time about how risky it is, and what if it doesn't come out right, and what if it's not good, and she's like so over it. So I'm going to make some films like I have been, and hopefully they'll be better than the last one. I think we all hope that for everything that we make. But you know, I used to make wine before I went to Knight. I'm going to put some more wine in a barrel, and I don't know. I'm not really sure.
That's good.
And I'm okay with that, by the way. So.
Well, before we just finally close up, I just wanted to say, and I know you're going to hate this, because as much as you like to talk about the work, you actually hate when people talk about you. But I just want to say from all of us and from me personally, a huge thank you. I think that your investment and engagement, your hard questions, your really hard pushing. Oh,
I asked her some hard questions.
have changed this field and this work and made the work better and stronger in every community that you've touched. And I think the legacy that you will leave from your work is enormous, and the impact you've had on the field is enormous. And just personally for me, your mentorship and engagement and partnership and friendship in our work, the work will never be the same. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.